This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
All of us are looking for a life of meaning and significance. A life that makes a difference in the world. A life that truly matters. We believe this is found through the right people, platform, and purpose. We call this movement 3. It starts with giving people greater health through the power of our proactive wellness products. 3's innovative formulas deliver demonstrable results by maximizing bioavailability and cellular absorption, ensuring people everywhere can enjoy the nutrition they need to operate at their best. Building on our foundation of people-focused products, we provide a platform for unparalleled entrepreneurship and personal growth. 3 is there beside you every step of your journey towards building a business and a better life. Finally, we know that a sense of real purpose, the kind that moves hearts, minds, and mountains, comes through serving and elevating others. This philosophy is reflected in our caring community, which bring hope and life-saving help to people around the world. It's time to redefine what's possible and activate your full potential. It's time to live a life of purpose. It's time for 3.
Hey, this is the show World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment, a show that for the last 5.5 years has taken a deep dive into all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening by bringing you one-on-one conversations with some of the world's top teachers, masters, and experts in all 3 of these areas, and today's show is no exception. But first, please take a moment to download your free copy of my ebook, The 3 Pillars, a simple 3-step process to manifest positive and permanent change in your life. This is a short ebook that will help you to build a rock-solid personal foundation, and so you can live the life you love and love the life you live. Just click on the link in the show notes below to get your free copy now. So, with today's show, we meet Dean Graves, a multi-talented personality who has been sharing his knowledge on meditation and mindfulness for more than 2 decades. Along with being an author and podcaster himself, he is also a mental health counselor and spiritual guide. Dean is passionate about philosophy, psychology, and exploring the human condition to help others find inner peace. Now, Dean has written a number of books, including Enlightenment Plain and Simple, The Identity Model, Edifying Children of a Lesser God, and his soon-to-be released book, The Enigma of Consciousness. I am going to be anxious to check that out when it comes out. And all of those are centered around self-empowerment and awareness with the aim of enabling individuals to realize their true potential and attain a higher level of consciousness. Yes, I like it. He strongly believes that we are at the cusp of a new era of enlightenment, and he is committed to assisting others in recognizing and harnessing their abilities, all of which I love. So with that, hey, welcome to World Awakenings, Dean. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Carl. Thank you for inviting me. Delighted to be a part of your show.
Well, thank you. And, as I was saying in the intro, we've had all kinds of experts around the world, and when I found you, what you do, I still a lot I'm wondering about, and we're going to dive into that in a moment here. So looking at your bio, I find it interesting that you yourself state your first 50 years on the planet were remarkably unremarkable, but then you started to meditate. And that put you on a new trajectory in your life, right?
It did, yes, absolutely, it did. Yeah, it allowed me to do the process of healing. Is the process of enlightenment. Enlightenment is an often misunderstood topic, and because of the Buddha's successes and characterization of enlightenment, most people have the perspective that enlightenment is a destination. It's not a destination, it's a process, and everyone is enlightened to the degree that they have allowed themselves to become enlightened. Enlightenment is synonymous with the process of consciousness evolution. And so consequently, we have the end goal of being Buddha-like, but that's not the objective of this range of consciousness that we experience. And so consequently, my effort is to break those paradigms that people have about the elusiveness of enlightenment, and understand that even in the course of our daily lives, they are participating in the enlightenment process. But if you're not aware of that, if you're not knowledgeable of what it is that you're truly trying to do with your daily activities and experiences, it falls on deaf ears, so to say.
Well, everything you said there is already fascinating to me, but before we move forward, I would like to find out a little bit more about you. What did you do in those first 50 unremarkable years? Did you have a career in mental health counseling or what?
Well, I had a career. I began my academic um, efforts and gravitated towards philosophy. I After graduating, I was led to pursue a career in real estate development, which I did for about 40 years. And as most people, the awakening is the realization that all of the things that we have been doing to try to find greater happiness and stability aren't working. And that is awakening. Awakening is nothing more than the realization that all of this stuff that I've been doing isn't working and I'm not getting happier. And so once we have that realization, then we start looking around to what alternatives there are to what we have been doing and what everyone else has been doing. And so consequently, to pursue those activities, we have to direct our awareness outside of ourselves. And so consequently, I explained to my meditation students that we simultaneously exist in both the metaphysical world and the physical world. And the physical world, I simply identify as the village, and the metaphysical world as the guru's cave. So when we learn to meditate, and that in and of itself is a monumental task for most people, we learn to retreat from the village and go into the guru's cave. All problems exist in the village, and when we go into the guru cave, no problems exist. And so consequently, it changes our perspective, much in the same way of Plato's cave metaphor allowed the one escaping individual to take the constraints off of their perspective of how things should be or how things are. And you open yourself to all sorts of possibilities, which are available to everyone. There's no exclusivity to it. And the experiences that we have, that we share in pursuing this inwardly directed awareness effort, are immutable to everyone. So we are our own vehicle for healing all of the misperceptions that we've created over the course of our efforts to reach that point of awakening.
Wow, yes. Again, so much to chew on here. Just awesome stuff. One last thing I do want to ask about the earlier Dean Graves. When you started to meditate at the age of 50, what happened? I mean, what clicked?
What clicked, what motivated me to meditate?
Yeah, well, and actually, I mean, when you did, obviously, something changed by starting to meditate. Did you just feel a closer attachment to source, or did you have a kundalini awakening or something like that?
Well, no, as with most people, we reach this point of awakening, and at that point, with that awareness that we are not happy and all that stuff we've been doing hasn't been working, and we initially are running away from the stick. The stick hurts, and so consequently, we are motivated to feel better, to get away from that stick. And then once we achieve a certain degree of competency in our inwardly directed awareness efforts, then we get a bite of the apple. And the apple tastes really good. And so our motivation transforms from running away from the stick to chasing the apple because the apple tastes good and we want more of that. And the same was with me. I was motivated because of the degrees of stress and suffering that I was creating, continuing to create for myself. But I wasn't aware that I was creating it for myself at the time. And then I got a bite of the apple. And that was like supercharging my efforts to work even harder to pursue that inwardly directed awareness and to answer the existential questions that we all have about our existence and participation in creation.
Well, I love that metaphor, the bite of the apple. So once you started meditating and you started to enjoy the peaceful feeling and the calmness and connecting to all that is, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you for that. Um,
Sure.
you know, consciousness is obviously a big topic. Now, I mean, in today's modern world where there's just so much distraction, I mean, if you just walked up to 10 people on a street corner and said, well, what is consciousness? I'm guessing most people say, huh?
Yeah. Well,
Real?
it's not just 10 people on the street, it's our entire academic community as well that perceives themselves as intellectually pursuing the question of what consciousness is. And the difficulty that we have as the 10 people walking along the street, and as well as the academic portion of our population, is we perceive limitedly that our existence is in the physical world. But because we participate simultaneously in a parallel existence in the metaphysical world, and as long as we deny that or are unaware of that, then we will fail to recognize and understand what consciousness is.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. So, um, yeah, I'm very conscious of this, but
Okay.
yeah, consciousness is real. I think you're correct. It's one of the first steps to opening up and seeking that bigger answer. And now the interesting thing about consciousness, let me ask this, and maybe this is the wrong uh, way to go. How would you define? What would be your best definition of consciousness itself?
Consciousness defined, and this will require some unpacking. Consciousness is our creatorness intoxicated with free will. Um, Philosophers for centuries have debated what free will, whether we have the choice of turning right or turning left, or where we're predetermined, and so forth. And all of that is a product of free will. Free will is the perception of separation. We have the choice of choosing to go right or left because we perceive ourselves as an autonomous being, and we perceive all of our surroundings to be autonomous and separate from us. The reality is there is no separation other than in our perception. And so consequently, free will becomes a remarkably productive tool for fulfilling the purpose of creation. And the purpose of creation, very simply, is so that the one infinite creator might know itself by experiencing itself. Creation began with that desire on the part of the one infinite creator. And to accomplish that, the creator projected free will into a conceptual part of itself, which created the first object-subject relationship. The one infinite creator becomes the creator as the object, and the projected self becomes the creator as the subject. And so consequently, by observing itself as the creator as the subject, which is conceptual, it could observe itself, interact with itself, and explore itself. Now, the creator as the subject is consciousness. That's what consciousness is. And the creator as the subject began to fulfill the purpose of creation by replicating that same process, but with each declining, with each fractal of itself that it created. It did so by increasing the degree of intoxication of free will, and free will functions just like whiskey. It lowers our awareness. You know, you get drunk and your awareness is significantly less than what it would be if you weren't intoxicated. So by lowering awareness, we have the structure of creation that is made possible by free will and by the intoxication of free will. That notwithstanding, everything that we experience is a lesser degree of consciousness that is intoxicated to varying degrees, and consequently the awareness is diminished with each descending level of consciousness.
Wow, what a wonderful explanation. I love that. Intoxicated with free will, and free will is like whiskey. And now with that, Dean, I'm a long time A Course in Miracles student. And of course, Course in Miracles is a non-dualistic spiritual modern guide that millions of people around the world study and practice on a basis. It was scribed and released in 1975. Now, there's a statement from A Course in Miracles that I want to read to you on consciousness. And it says, consciousness, the level of perception, was the first split introduced into the mind after the separation, making the mind a perceiver rather than a creator. Consciousness is correctly identified as the domain of the ego. The ego is a wrong-minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. Yet you can know yourself only as you are because that is all you can be sure of. Everything else is open to question. That is in perfect alignment the way you explained it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. There's uniformity throughout creation. What varies is the degree of free will intoxication. As humans, we participate. There are 8 or 9 densities, it's called. And a density is nothing more than a range of consciousness. The distinction between 8 or 9 layers of consciousness is some higher, the Arcturians reference 9 layers of consciousness, but the 9th layer is the creator is the object in their perspective. The raw group that channeled the raw material to the LL research people in the early 80s defined it as 8. There are 8 layers within creation. The top layer the eighth density being the creator as the subject. And it's the same structure as just how they identify it. The Ra group doesn't identify the creator as the object as a density because it is outside of creation. We exist currently. We are in, and one reason that I say that we are on the cusp of what would be identified as a new age of enlightenment. The human population has for roughly 850,000 years has existed in a range of consciousness that is identified as third density. Each density is divided into dimensions. Each dimension is distinguished by its degree of free will intoxication. And so we have a third density experience has a very definitive time frame, and the Ra group describes it as regular as a clock. When the clock strikes, then third density experience is over with. Our most recent, we have, let me back up, excuse me. Earth has been a second chance planet, which means all of the participants in the third density experience on Earth has failed a previous attempt to graduate from third density. We are an accumulation, we have been an accumulation of 16 different groups of individuals from other planets, not all within our solar system, that have come to Earth in order to try to graduate again. The Earth experience lasts approximately 76,000 years, and that ended in February of 2016. And so the third density experience that everyone has been participating in for this extended period of time is in a holdover period. In other words, every lifetime is important because within that lifetime is the defined opportunity to learn the curriculum of third density so that they might graduate to fourth density. The bulk of the population, the overwhelming bulk of the population, has failed to graduate repeatedly for 5 third density experiences, those that we identify, or I identify as the Zenoa Earth population. We began 850,000 years ago, which I was part of. We completed a third density experience on Zenoa, which was the name of Venus before we blew the planet up. But very few graduates. We tried again on Zenoa, but we blew the planet up. We blew the atmosphere off of the planet, destroyed the atmosphere, so the third density experience could not continue. We tried again, a new third density experience was tried on the planet that was called Maldak. We failed to graduate from there because we blew the whole planet up. And the asteroid belt that is part of our solar system used to be a planet. And the Zenoa Earth population was the occupant of that planet. And so there's a reason for that asteroid belt, because we blew it up. There were a lot of difficulties with the population after that time. They were described to be in a knot of fear. And so there was a lot of effort to try to get the population out of that knot of fear so that they could continue on with their third density experience. And so from Maldak, we were transferred to Mars, and Mars apparently was a disaster for a variety of reasons. But we blew the atmosphere off of that planet as well. And so with 3 very destructive histories in trying to complete a third density experience, none of those 3 third density experiences could be completed because of the destruction of the planet. So the 5th attempt was Earth, and simply having completed the third density experience without blowing the planet up was a big accomplishment. But out of that, and that 76,000 years is divided. That portion of the population that has fulfilled the learning curriculum of the third density, we've been only able to graduate 150 souls from the third density experience at the end of the second experience, which was approximately 25,000 years ago. And most of the people that we have identified as saints are those third density graduates that decided not to go on to fourth density, but to stay to try to help and to continue to reincarnate with the populace to try to elevate their level of consciousness so they could make some progress. But they now have all gone on to different, to their own evolution in fourth density. And I don't know how many people graduated. It's not over with since we're in a holdover period of the population, but Earth has been determined to be a fourth density positive planet. One of the criteria, one of the curriculum requirements for graduating from third density is to make a decision of whether we are going to polarize service to self or service to others. Service to self is considered the negative path, and service to others is considered the positive path. Those that have chosen to graduate service to others have chosen to realign with the Creator. Those that have chosen to polarize negatively the service to self path have chosen to separate themselves from the Creator. Those following the service to self path are following what is described as the indirect path, because they will proceed in their evolutionary development as far as they can go along this third path, and they will reach a brick wall, literally a wall that they cannot get past. And they'll stay there potentially for billions of years until they have an awakening and they realize that I can't go any farther. And when they reach that point, then they, of their own volition, have to choose to go back where they dropped out of school. So it's very similar to that person that was in your high school graduating class that was too cool for school and dropped out, and then wished that they could come back in, but they have to come back and learn the curriculum of high school that they failed to be attentive to in order to proceed on with their life. And so Earth has been determined to be a fourth density positive planet, service to others planet, and virtually the overwhelming majority of the children that have been born since mid 2000s, 2006, 2007, somewhere around in there, and some before then, are all fourth density children, fourth density souls. And so the enlightenment is inevitable, but not necessarily within the time frame that remains for the existing third density participants. There are some third density participants still being born, but they are of the higher dimensions of third density and need just a little bit more learning in order to complete their graduation. And the plan is that by affiliation with the fourth density population, that they will achieve what they need to achieve to finish their graduation. And it's probably more than you wanted to know, but
well, actually, it was just phenomenal. I mean, basically, you gave a explanation of the history of soul kind. I won't even say mankind, from the ancient history into the now, into modern, the future, what we're explaining. But I do want to go back again with the consciousness thing. I'm going to share a screen here with you because I know you know about this. Dr. David Hawkins' map of consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
which is phenomenal. I read his book. I think it's Power versus Force that is in here. And if we look at the map of consciousness here, he has different levels, and you can see survival paradigm, and he has the energy log, the number. You can go by number. And anything below 200, he says that mankind has existed for most of history here on, at least on planet Earth, below the 200 line. In baseball, that's called below the
Right.
Mendoza line. And then
Yeah. Your contract doesn't get renewed in baseball.
right. And then he says I believe it's 2009, suddenly mankind jumped to 209, I believe it was, over the Mendoza line, over 200. And for some reason, and it may be those things that you were explaining now, that there was a rise up into the start into the 4D. But
Yeah.
all the way up into 700 to 1000 is pure consciousness, which, as you said, I mean, I think only 150 souls have ever graduated to that level in the history of history. But I mean, what is? Do you have any comments on the map of consciousness that Hawkins created?
Yeah, it was. I'm very familiar with it. It was a great effort on Dr. Hawkins' part to categorize this. How I would disagree with him is that he's characterized, and I think this is his psychiatry and psychology training. He's defined these areas as emotions, and that is misleading. These are actually conditions of beings of how the individual is. It's not an emotion per se. The behavior that results from these ranges of consciousness are as a result of the condition of being of the individual that is progressing along this path. An emotion is very simple. It is not nearly as complicated as we would make it. All of the hundreds, if not thousands, of names that we've come up with to identify emotions are conditions of being. An emotion is simply our adjudication of the experience that we are having at the time, and an experience is a single thought. So we have to do this with every single thought. We're obligated to make a decision about every single thought, whether that thought feels good or it doesn't feel good. If it feels good, then it is a positive emotion and we want more of it. If it is an unwanted feeling, if it doesn't feel good, then we don't want more of it. And so the bottom ranges of what Hawkins identifies as his scale, we are cycling in a range of chaos. And so consequently, by continuing to cycle within that range of chaos, we perpetually experience things that we don't like. And that is our condition of being, our low consciousness level of being, that keeps us locked into those categories. Consciousness is such that you can take unformatted consciousness that is not heretofore participating in what we perceive to be creation, and format it by intoxication of free will at any level, from the highest levels to the lowest levels, and it will behave relatively similar to all other consciousness that occupies that level of consciousness. And so consequently, our objective as humans, as healing, is becoming aware, surrendering those beliefs that keep us cycling within the lower levels of consciousness, change our condition of being, which synonymously reduces our stress level, and we get happier. Stress and happiness is a scale. If you bliss is nothing more than the absence of stress. So in order to be in a condition of bliss, all we have to do is eliminate stress. But it's a process to get there. And so as we surrender those perceptions of separation, as we surrender our beliefs that keep us cycling in those lower dimensions of the density, those lower conditions of being, our behavior changes, we experience less stress, and happiness fills the void that is left by the reduction of stress.
So I find it interesting, and because you did point out something about Hawkins' map of consciousness, where he rates as the number goes up and your spiritual awakening goes up, the predominant emotional state. Now, isn't emotion just simply an intensification of your energy frequency?
Well, that's the result of it. I mean, we decide, I don't like this experience. We perceive, because of our low level of consciousness, we perceive an experience to last 30 minutes, an hour, some period of time. But within that are hundreds, dozens, if not hundreds of thoughts that we're processing. And we are obligated with each thought to adjudicate that thought, whether it feels good and I like it, or I don't like it because it doesn't feel good. That is an emotion. Just that simple decision, that is a complete emotion. But if we, again, because of our low level of consciousness, if we are in a depressed state, if we are feeling sad one day, that is our condition of being. So we are going to be predisposed to interpret every experience that comes to us from that posture through that lens of being sad. And so they're not going to feel good. But we have the capacity to change that. We can say, that's not my thought. I don't want to think that thought. I'm going to attract another thought. And simply by making that awareness, that decision, we change the stream of thoughts that we're attracting to comport with our perceptions of what feels good.
Okay, I like that that explanation. I'm probably gonna have to go back and listen to it again so that
Okay.
I can grab onto it a little bit more. You've also spoken quite a bit here about free will. What exactly is free will? And you may have already explained that, but I would like to hear it again. Has man given up much of his free will in today's modern world?
No, not at all. Free will is a perception of separation. If anything, the stresses that we experience as a population, the stresses that we experience as an individual, are as a result of our perception of separation.
Yeah, but free will, doesn't that the way I look at it, it gives you free will to choose this or choose that.
Yeah,
And is that part of perception?
sure it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a perception according to how you are, and possibly an explanation of one of the difficulties that I have with psychiatry and mental health and psychology is they study behavior, and behavior is the result of how that person is condition-wise. But our mind is our lens through which we interpret those experiences. Our mind is nothing more than a bundle of beliefs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so consequently, it sways our perceptions according to how we have created our mind by what beliefs we have accepted, either by osmosis or active determination that we're going to include in our mind.
Yeah, Esther Hicks, who channels Abraham, says a belief is just a thought that you think over and over.
Well, a belief is something that we've agreed to incorporate into our identity, our hierophant, our ego.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, this is interesting. We are talking to Dean Graves, who's just an amazing author and a meditation teacher, teacher of consciousness. Here, everything you hear is just blowing my mind already, and I love every moment of it. Now, Dean, in the grand scheme of this life that we're experiencing here on Earth, what role does spirituality play? Is spirituality something bigger than just believing in an infinite source of all that is God?
Well, no, God is, we perceive that's the basis of religion.
Yeah.
And religion is not spirituality. The basis of every religion is the concept that there is a God and there is me. And that is not true. We are the one infinite creator exploring ourselves at this range of consciousness. And that is the design of creation, that the creator decided to send itself as far away from itself as it could and allow it to evolve back to itself, having unique experiences all along the way, and consequently, it's exploring itself uniquely.
I'm so glad that you said spirituality is not religion. And also what you just said there too, having unique experiences along the way. You mean like blowing up 3 planets before we got here to Earth?
It's just experience.
Wow.
If you understand that creation is all what philosophers call a grand thought experiment.
Yeah.
All of creation is conceptual.
This is wonderful. So, well, I'm going to go back to some other things that I've been able to glean from your website and some other things. You do something, and I don't know much about this, but I did see one of your little videos. You call it Prima Meditation Healing. What is that?
It's giving people the tools to evolve. It's doing exactly what we're talking about. There are our awareness is both our discovery tool of what needs to be healed and the healing tool itself, on the premise that, for example, if you walk out your front door one morning and you're going to work and you see your car has a flat tire, you've discovered what the problem is. Well, you're not going to walk away and never use that car again. You're going to get the tire fixed. But either you do it or you call the tow truck guy to come and change your tire for you. The same is true once we discover what the problem is within us, what this belief is within us that needs to be surrendered, that's causing us perpetual stress. We're going to let it go. Once you've discovered the problem, you're going to let it go. And it's all within us. The only thing that we can change is ourselves. And so if we're continuing to experience stress to a remarkably uncomfortable degree, if we are not finding happiness, it's because we have to change ourselves. We have to change those beliefs that we've incorporated into this hierophant that we are programmed to create at this range of consciousness. But that is what allows us to explore this range of consciousness uniquely. The healing process, the enlightenment process, requires essentially 2 steps that aren't mutually exclusive. In other words, they're not necessarily sequential. The healing process requires that we heal what is called the emotional baggage that we are carrying. We all have the same amount of potential energy in this range of consciousness. And that energy has to power our mind, our body, our spirit, everything. It powers everything about us. And all the experiences that we have had in our life are messages to us. Those messages that we don't like are our teacher, because that's stress. Stress is our teacher. When we're experiencing stress, then that is the message that is being brought to us to highlight to us what about us that we need to become aware of and change. But we don't do that. We're not aware of doing that. We muscle through, or somehow we perpetuate that stress. When we don't learn the lesson, then that's like a homework assignment. We get to keep that. We carry that in the form of a textbook. And if you remember from school, if you didn't do your homework, that didn't mean the homework wasn't due. It just means you didn't do it. And imagine that every homework assignment had a textbook. And you have to carry that textbook with you everywhere you go until you do your homework. Once you do your homework, then you can put the book down and never have to carry it again. And so 30 days of not doing your homework, you got a lot of weight to carry, a lot of heavy textbooks to carry. And the energy that you would be normally using to go sing doo-wop on the street corner or whatever it is that you're doing besides doing your homework gets more and more difficult to do because you don't have the energy to do it because you got to carry all these textbooks. The same is with emotional baggage. People that experience depression, and psychology has spent an infinite amount of time trying to define the characteristics of depression, but the one irrefutable constant of people that experience depression is the depression feels heavy. When they're feeling that depression, it's feeling heavy, and they have a lack of energy. And so you have to ask, what could possibly feel heavy? Well, what feels heavy is the emotional baggage. And so the healing of depression, the healing of any chaos that we're experiencing is a matter of doing the homework, getting rid of the textbooks, and recouping the energy that we naturally have in order to function to our optimum level. The other part of healing the emotional baggage is that one prong of that process. The other is becoming aware of the beliefs that we have incorporated into our hierophant, into our false identity, and begin to start throwing those out. Now, it's usually more difficult to become aware of those beliefs until we heal or get significant healing of the emotional baggage done, simply because we don't have the awareness. The energy is the fuel for the awareness that we all naturally have. And so you're running out of gas. You don't have enough gas to fuel the awareness to do the work to heal and progress along the enlightenment path. So the second part of that is simply becoming aware of those beliefs, surrendering those erroneous beliefs that are causing you to perceive yourself as separate. And as you do that, you gain more energy, you evolve, your behavior changes, you get happier, you experience less stress. It's the same for everyone, but you got to do the work. And that the higher beings have said, we did the work. You got to do it. It's worthwhile doing it. It's the hardest thing that you'll ever do in life, but it's your purpose in life. Our purpose in life is the same. People all the time tell me, I don't know what my purpose in life is. Your purpose in life is to heal yourself, to explore yourself, and consequently heal yourself. Your mission in life is to do whatever you like to do. If you wanted to be a doctor and you decide I'm going to be a doctor, that is simply the vehicle that provides you with the opportunity for experiences to explore yourself. And so whatever we do, whatever we choose to do, should be something that we like, because that's going to provide us with the opportunities for learning.
So this textbook of lessons that we carry from life to another life, can those be called the same as karma or Akashic records?
Well, sure. We're magnetic. We attract our experiences. We attract our thoughts according to how we are. And the reason that we do not create thoughts. We perceive that we do, again, because of our low-level awareness. We are magnetic and we attract thoughts. All of creation, particularly for we who experience the lower densities that we are participating in, all thoughts are there. We can attract whatever thought that we want. When Alexander Graham Bell was attracting or trying to create the telephone, he just attracted those thoughts because he had the background to understand it, and he attracted those. The same is true of any other discovery. One of the things that we have on our website is a schematic for a free energy machine. But it's not a machine, it's just a device. There are no moving parts in it. And there are people that are working on that currently around the world, that hopefully the schematic will give them some focus on what they're actually trying to do. But those thoughts are already created. All we have to do is attract them. And how we attract them is we have the background to understand it. if you're going to be a physicist, you need to have some background in physics in order to understand what it else that you're attracting, to expand that understanding. But they're there for our taking, just by changing how we are and opening ourselves to those possibilities. A genius is distinguished from somebody that's really smart because they have the background and they've opened themselves to the opportunities to attract the thoughts that they need in order to satisfy their curiosity.
Wow, this is awesome. There are so many facets to your knowledge and abilities, Dean. I really appreciate you sharing these. These are amazing. Another amazing facet to me, and I kind of emailed you about this the other day, you have a podcast called Chatting with Arcturians. First of all, what and who are the Arcturians, and how do you chat with them during your podcast?
Well, I record them before and then edit it and put it up. And my significant other is a vocal channel. I am not a vocal channel, but I do communicate conversationally with other folks besides the Arcturians. The Arcturians. Creation is, okay, every universe, and there are multiple universes, has a design to it. And in the process of developing creation, it became apparent that there were 5 inherent characteristics of the creator that are identified as the creator. They're not distortions. They're not anything other than the true creator. And those sequentially are awareness, love, unity, wisdom, unity, and stillness. And each of the densities that are experiential or creator being densities are designed to allow us to explore those inherent characteristics as deeply as possible. In addition to that, there's free will, which is a distortion. And there are 26 other distortions of those 5 inherent characteristics that allow creation to be expansively explored. Every universe has a mix and match combination of some number of these now archetypes, inherent characteristics, plus the distortions are all considered to be archetypes of the creator. Our universe is comprised of 9 of these archetypes, the 5 inherent characteristics and 4 distortions. And so creation has expanded with these 9 archetypes of the creator. We exist, we are a part of a 9-star system, and every star is a home to an archetype. Our sun is home to law, which is wisdom. And so there are 8 other stars, which I have delineated in this upcoming book, are home to one of the other inherent characteristics or distortions. And the melding of these create the different experiences that we are participating in on Earth. The Arcturians are simply a different 9-star system that is part of our universe. The Pleiadians are another 9-star system. They are both a lot older than our 9-star system, so they have more experience, and they provide us with communications to help us understand, help us evolve. They don't get involved with decision making about what to do and what not to do. They're just information sources if we choose to communicate with them. And so my communications with the Arcturians is as a questioner, and I'm just, we chat. We literally chat. I mean, we have a great, we call her an instrument because they use her body. They use her physical body. She's not injecting any thoughts into the process. And through the instrument, I'm able to chat with the Arcturians and ask them all sorts of silly questions that I have about our experience and so forth. They, by all of the positive side of creation functions according to number one, the law of one, which is the one immutable truth of creation, that everything is one, it's all the creator. But also there is an agreement that they don't interfere. It's much like the prime directive of Star Trek. They don't interfere with our experience. And that is called the law of confusion or the law of free will, same thing, depending on who you're talking to. They may refer to the law of confusion or the law of free will. They're not going to give us any information that's going to, any personal information, anything that's going to sway our decision-making process of our experience. And so they're simply providing us with information. A lot of the information that that I'm sharing with you, some of it has been shared by the RAW group that the LL Research folks channeled in the early 80s. Some of it is the Arcturian, some of it I've gotten directly from the RAW group, which is my principal personal contact. That is part of our experience. They occupy Sirius B, which is one of the stars in our 9-star system. But it's just offered as information to help people get a broader understanding of what they're doing here and what their objective is, and get out of this cycle of lower consciousness chaos.
Well, this is, I'm glad that we talked about this. You know, I have had numerous channels on this show, many speaking light language. I've had spoken to Daniel the Octurian, who comes through Tracy Mahan, who is a guest on my show, and I've had Pleiadians, that type of thing. I find it fascinating. And that they all say exactly what you said. They are here to help mankind and actually the existence of all beings throughout all the universe by helping us, and they're not here to interfere, only to help us.
Well, if they are offering any information that will interfere, then you can pretty well conclude that that is a negative source. That is a service to self entity that is trying to muddy the waters. And we have a tremendous number of hegemonies that are foundational to our earthly experience that are service to self induced. And so consequently, we're part of the process is trying to offer truthful information to counteract the conditioning that the service to self has provided for centuries.
Well, this is just a phenomenal conversation that, like I said, myself, I'm going to go back and listen to it many times. The last thing I want to talk to you, you have 4 books that you've written, with your newest book, The Enigma of Consciousness, to be published sometime this year. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. That book in particular, or all 4 of them?
Yeah, that's probably the only one we have time to talk about.
Okay. Well, The Enigma of Consciousness is my compendium book. It's a long book, and I go through the details of the creation of experience and discuss all of the densities and how all of the densities function. I also have several chapters where I explain the archetypical mind, which is a blueprint for how we process thought. And it's very helpful to understand that because with every thought that we're processing, we're running it through that structure of the archetypical mind. We discuss forgiveness. We discuss how and why we create the Hierophant that we've been referencing, and how and why that provides us with the cycling within the chaos of the densities. It is as complete as I could make it at the time. I've learned things since I've written the book, and I'm working on a 5th book now to update stuff primarily from the Arcturians that I just hadn't learned yet when I wrote that book. But it's a complete book. It will satisfy the most aggressive inquiries for most of the population.
And when do you expect to publish that this year?
It's supposed to be on bookshelves August 30th and available for digital pre-ordering and digital purchase, I think, the middle of July.
Well, I am definitely going to get a copy of that. And your explanation of the Enigma of Consciousness, your soon-to-be published book, sounds very much like what you explained during our chat here. So it's going to be...
Well, I did, but this was obviously greatly abbreviated.
Yes. I would So wow, Dean, I am so grateful for having you on the show. I mean, literally everything you talked about is why I started this show. And now we're getting this out to the world, and what you do is now opening the hearts and minds of the world. I mean, there's so much we didn't even get a chance to talk about, so who knows? Maybe I might have to have you on for another return.
I'm always available. My objective is to provide the information that the populace needs to heal.
Awesome. I love that. All right, Dean Graves, thank you for being on the World Awakenings.
Thank you, Carl. Likewise, thank you for having me.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.